is Earl Estep. Welcome to another episode of Looking Up. Today I want to share just a couple of verses with you out of an interesting story in the life of David. And it's found in 1 Samuel chapter number 30. David has been off to battle with his army and he's coming back home. And instead of a hero's welcome, what they find is nothing. Their lives have been turned upside down. Their houses have been burned. Everything's been looted, and their families, their wives, and their children have been taken away, have been taken captive. David and his team, his group, as you can imagine, they're pretty upset. They're just beside themselves. And so David decides the best thing for us to do is go and recover everything we've lost, and especially our families. So they head out. He heads out with 600 of his men. The first place they come to is, the Bible tells us, a place called a Besor Ravine. And it's just a creek or a brook, and there's these men stopped there, and I imagine they probably got in the water, splashed around a little bit, and had a good time, kind of relaxed a little bit. And then it's time to head out, and something interesting happens. Let me read it to you. It's in verse 9. It says, David and the 600 men with him came to the Besor Ravine, where some stayed behind, for 200 men were too exhausted to cross the ravine. Can you imagine being that exhausted that you can't even go on any farther to go recover your family? That's pretty tired. These guys were worn out. They were discouraged. They were angry. They were just done. They said, we're not going anywhere. Circumstances stopped them from moving forward. And here's the thing I thought of is, I wonder how many people I know, and maybe how many people you know, that are maybe sitting on the banks of their Besor Ravine, that they're so tired and they're exhausted with all that's been going on that they just can't go on. And maybe it's they've lost a job. Maybe they've lost, they're having family problems or financial problems. They're depressed. They're discouraged. There's so much that's been going on. They feel like giving up. I'm just going to sit over here. I can't do anything. They've lost faith. They've lost their hope. I think there's a lot of people like that out there. Their faith has wavered quite a bit. Well, let's see what happens with these 200 men, or with the 400, excuse me, that head on to battle. They head out and they find the battle. They find the enemies. They defeat them. That was the Amalekites, and they get everything back that they had lost. They find their families. They finally get to rejoice and have a reunion, a great celebration with their families. And they head back home to Ziklag, but along the way they stop at the ravine. And an interesting conversation happens there. I think there was two. One of them we're not really privileged to hear, but I think it sounded like this. It's the wives of the husbands of the 200 that probably said, hey, so you were too tired to come find me? Yeah, that was a good conversation. And I think the flip-flops probably came out, and some probably hitting them over the head about that time. But the interesting conversation we did hear is found in verse 22. It said, but all the evil men and troublemakers among David's followers said, because they did not go out with us, we will not share with them the plunder we recovered. However, each man may take his wife and children and go. You know, in reality, all 600 of these guys had the same experiences. They'd all been to war. They were all tired. They were all exhausted. They all lost their homes. They all lost their families. And so they all had the very same experiences. But what I know is, and what I found to be true in life, is that everyone deals with life's ups and downs in different ways, and even at different times. Sometimes we handle a situation like this, and another time we may not handle it as well. And instead of these 200 men, in another story, it could have been 200 other men. And at different times, different things happen, and we just are not to give up and not to lose faith. But here's the question I have is, what do we do now with these Besor people? There's really a couple of options we see in the Bible. The first one is the option of the military, the army, the soldiers it takes. And that is the one where we're going to give the soldiers, our buddies, a hard time. We're going to exclude them. We're going to harass them. We're going to make fun of them. I can just hear them, come on, suck it up, buttercup. You better get moving. You can do it. Come on. And made them probably feel like they weren't as good as, that they didn't have any value. And then the second option is the one that David had, and the one David took. And that is that he respected and showed honor to these men. But the first thing he did was in verse 23, he said, It is the Lord who gave this to us and protected us and handed the victory to us. It's what God did this for us. It was him. He gave us the victory. It wasn't anything we did. It's God who did it for us. And then verse 24, David said, the share of the man who stayed with the supplies is to be the same as that of him who went down to the battle. All will share alike. So we see a couple of words here we haven't seen before, and that was these supplies. So evidently some supplies were left behind there at Besor, and these troops were there with them, and David said they stayed here with the supplies. They're getting the same portion as everybody else. What I found so great in this story is that David is such a great type of Christ. He placed value in those men that probably felt like they had none. Like he puts value in us. He fought the battle that these guys couldn't fight, just like God does for us. And his words were encouraging words to those men like God's word is to us. It's such a great story. And he showed great respect for these men. And when they returned back home, I don't think they were shunned or they were treated as less than anyone else. And because we go through our Besor ravines, it doesn't make us less than. It just makes us human. It doesn't make us less than anyone else. When we go through our ravines, it's just things that we go through. It's just part of what we all have to face. But maybe today, in this story, you see David as maybe the person you could be to someone else. Maybe it's our time to be a David to someone who's a friend of ours or a family who's sitting on the banks of the Besor ravine. We've got to remind them this too will pass. Keep the faith. Keep hope alive. You can do it. Don't give up. Empathize with them. You have great value. You see, as we come to the end of our time together today, God knows we need to rest, but we can't quit and we can't give up. We've got to keep the faith and we've got to keep hope alive in our life. Hey, I hope these words were good words for you today. They were encouragement to me to see how God works and how David treated these men and how God treats us. If you liked it, make sure you push the like button down there. And if you'd like to share it with someone and it might be an encouragement to them, do that today. Hey, thanks so much. Have a great day and God bless you.